The question is, how do you get a Bavarian karate champion, a nuclear fusion PhD, and the record holder in rowing here for the UK, how do you get them on one stage? The answer is actually very simple. You just host a panel on kind of the new frontiers of clean energy. So I'm super happy that today we'll actually have 3 amazing people on stage here. One is the founder of THALERON, JORGEN. He is in the process of inventing a new solution for storing energy, and he'll tell you all about it. He's the rowing champion. Then, obviously, the fusion PhD is the founder of PROXIMA Fusion. That's MIT PhD, FRANCESCO, and then my partner in crime for the Tomorrow Fund, THONG, who is actually Bavarian champion in karate. And yeah, you guys, I hope you're going to have a good time here. Give it up for the 3 of them.
Yeah. Can you see anything?
Yeah, so thanks so much for this nice intro, Polly. Very underwhelming achievement of mine that you pointed out. But yeah, it's a true privilege to have this platform, to share it with these 2 visionaries. And I think without further ado, let's dive right in, right? And let's actually start with some numbers. So in 2022, 40% of Europe's electricity came from fossil fuels. And the global number even surpasses 60%. So it's very clear that there's an urgent need to transition. And both of you are working on true breakthroughs in the clean energy space. So my first question is just, what do you think are the main shortcomings of our current energy system? And how are your companies, and you get a chance to present them, tackling this massive problem? Maybe let's start with Jorgen.
No, you start. Is that my voice?
Okay.
Jeez.
It's my lucky day. Sure. So I'm Francesco from PROXIMA Fusion. We are a startup based in Munich, the first spin-out of the Max Planck Institute for Plasma Physics in its 60 years of history. And we're working on bringing stellarators, some form of confinement device for hot matter, to commercialization and to bring the power of stars, basically, for energy production. You ask, how do you see what are the shortcomings of the energy system? Well, I live in Germany. Of course, coal is pretty problematic, and we're investing a lot in different kinds of clean energies, and solar is so cheap and so wonderful at this point. But I see a shortcoming in thinking about the strategy of clean energy as only being that kind of renewable that is intermittent. I think we need to think a little more about baseload clean electricity, and that's where fusion comes in.
I think storage.
Please elaborate.
Yeah, I think, Jesus, that's so bad to hit. Yeah, renewables, very, very cheap. 15 years ago were the most expensive way to produce electricity, and now the cheapest. A lot of people don't realize that. And they vary. That's the issue with them. That's why we don't see it in the meter in our bills. So, yeah, I think either baseload or some combination of baseload and storage is the solution.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about intermittency. So, especially renewable intermittency. Obviously, we don't have constant sunshine or wind, especially if we think about different geographies, right? So, how is the industry currently dealing with this issue? And as we even deploy more and more renewables, which role does storage play? Because you mentioned storage.
How are they dealing with it? They're not. So, energy goes negative pretty much every day in San Francisco, in California. In Germany, it's happening fairly regularly. It's wind, so it lasts longer, so it's days of negative energy even. Currently, storage costs about 10 times the price of producing energy. So if you want to have renewables, you have to find either a new way to store it, or you have to find something to fill in those gaps. And right now, people use fossil fuels, and we're pretty fucked if we keep doing that. So, sorry.
Yeah. what is negative energy? I think you need to explain that.
Literally, it goes negative in cost. No one can find anything productive to do with it, so they just waste it. So the price just keeps coming down and down and down until it's negative, and then they just turn them off. There's a cost associated with turning it off, so it has to go a little bit negative, and then guys go, wow, that's pretty bad.
And storage, it's more expensive, but I think we're betting a lot of lithium-ion batteries, for example, as grid energy storage, right? What's the problem with that, and are we going to get the down costing that is necessary?
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe so. Everyone's got an opinion. Mine is that fundamentally, if you look at the material costs, I can't see how they can get low enough to make the storage that we need for that duration work. We need to find something else fundamentally that energy is stored in. And yeah, I don't think we're going to find that in lithium-ion right now or in the future.
Okay.
I might be wrong in 5 years, 10 years, whatever. But
yeah, we'll see. So Francesco, let's assume we'll find a solution for storage. If we combine or pair renewables with efficient storage, it seems like we have everything under control, right? So
that'd be nice.
So, however, there has been quite a buzz recently about fusion energy. I think everyone in this room has heard something about fusion. Could you please tell us why fusion or how fusion does not only align seamlessly with this vision of a clean grid, but is even essential to rapidly phase out fossil fuels?
Yes. So I think a lot of people have a vision of how the energy grid works that is very simplified. In practice, we need baseload energy. We need something to counterbalance, let's say, to match, to follow the load and complement the intermittent energy sources. So even if you look at any projection of how energy is going to be produced in a 2050 decarbonized European economy, you will always notice that there is still that chunk of fossil fuels out there. So at the moment, we don't have a solution for full net zero, full decarbonization without fossil fuels. So fusion, of course, is the more radical of the solutions that we can think of. We've been after fusion for 70 years. We know what fusion as a reaction looks like. The problem is not the fundamental physics. We're now entering a phase where it's the engineering, the scaling of what we've done in research over so many years. And the reason why we've been after it for so long is because it could provide clean, abundant, safe electricity, really improve on other solutions, and really create that cocktail of solutions that we fundamentally rely on. So it's not really about saying, do you prefer the storage? Do you prefer the solar? Do you prefer the wind? We don't have the benefit of choosing one solution. We really have to find what matches each market, each situation, and fusion will definitely have a place in that kind of future ahead of us.
Okay. So I think we got very quickly into fusion and just assume everyone knows what fusion is. Can you give us an elevator pitch on fusion?
Sure. So fusion is the energy of the stars. It's what burns inside every star. It's a fundamental process, very different, basically the opposite of what is fission. So fission is what powers our nuclear power plants. Some people like it, some people don't like it. Good thing is, fusion has nothing to do with it, in the sense that fission deals with heavy nuclei that we split, and some of the mass is converted into energy. Fusion is the opposite, in the sense that we take very light nuclei, most often hydrogen or forms of hydrogen, and we bring them together, we smash them really hard, and then part of their mass also is converted into energy. This is the single most dense form of energy that we can imagine. So you could make from a spoonful of fusion fuel, so these forms of hydrogen, you can make the equivalent amount of energy as 11 tons of coal. And if you think about 11 tons of coal, it's a pretty substantial amount, and you understand why we are after this for so long. So fusion is really the ultimate source of energy. There is nothing after that for humanity to really achieve in terms of efficiency. Once we reach fusion as a viable, economically viable energy source, we really enter a next phase of human civilization. The question that is on many investors' mind is, when are you actually going to do it? Why have we been after this for so long and still don't have it? And that's for everyone to go and look up what has been the progress and why now there are 50 companies that are after fusion, and Proxima Fusion is one of them now. We think we have a shot at actually bringing fusion down to Earth.
Cool, cool, thanks. So,
Love the strap line. Bring the fusion down to earth. Yeah, nice.
yeah, and Jorgen, Francesco said 50 companies doing fusion. Will 50 companies be successful, or is it a winner-takes-it-all market in energy?
Jesus. In energy, in
Yeah.
general?
What do you think?
Look, I can't look from that perspective. I'll tell you about what we're doing. But I think energy is a funny one. It depends how quickly you can get it in. If you got the patents for it, if you got the protection, then I think there's some possibility there. If you look historically, there's generally been one or two technologies that have been dominant, and there's been lots of other things around. I think it might end up being a bit winner takes all. I know you think maybe differently on this.
I think in each space, it's likely that there will be more than one. You know, you look at every major piece of technology, there is never, we try not to ever have a monopoly. We're looking also in the energy space more and more at the question of energy resilience and energy sovereignty. So it's very likely that in Europe, we have to develop our own champions. This applies to storage, fusion, or anything else. So there will always be more than one party and different solutions. It's not obvious that fusion will be done in only one way. There are multiple approaches that are interesting. Different companies have different opinions about what is most likely to come to market first.
Yeah, yeah. So we started it off pretty technically, but taking it more to the business side of things, right? A lot of VCs are here, most successful VCs on the planet. And VCs, historically, they have rather shied away from the energy sector. If you look at the clean tech 1.0 era in the late 2000s, right, underwhelming returns. Yet, here you both are, diving headfirst into this exact space. And the question is really, why now, from your perspective? So what has changed to make frontier climate tech, the energy sector, maybe even the investment opportunity of our generation?
Can I jump in on this one? I have very strong views, very controversial. Let's hit it. So I think if you look at the time it's taken for a company to get into the S&P 500 over the last 100 years, it's been decreasing pretty rapidly. And most people think this is just the tech sector, but it's not. It's pretty much every sector. And the same is true in energy. So the time it took for a technology to become the established technology in energy has been decreasing. So maybe coal, it was 80 years. Maybe natural gas, it was 40. Maybe wind, it was 25. Solar is now more around 20, maybe even 15 years to become established. Like those kind of time horizons are now coming into where VC is. And that's like not happened before. So you have this one factor, the time horizon is now correct. You have this other factor, which is like there's a massive change happening in energy. So like just to give some context, when the first kind of climate summits were going in the mid-90s, they put all these targets forwards for 2050. Since then, it's gone from 78% primary energy from fossil fuels to being 73% in 30 years. In the next 30 years, there's like commitments in law that it's going to go from 73 down to 20, which is like a crazy, crazy change. So you've got this huge change in the biggest industry on Earth. Energy is the biggest part of world GDP. And you also have a time horizon that's now fitting in with the VC model. Like, I think you'd be, there's some funds who aren't going on it, and I think they really should be. I think it's the time to do it.
Yeah. And I would add to that, I think, great points. Different technologies should come into this picture of the VC world when there is an idea that is really changing how you could do things, or when there is a breakthrough. And breakthroughs often come with enough research, and then there has to be a pain point. I think earlier on, Sebastian was talking about crises bring opportunities for founders. If you look at the energy perspective, I'm based in Munich. I think we have a bit of a pain point. I think there is a bit of an elephant in the room regarding energy in Germany, but Europe in general. The question that we need to ask ourselves is, have we suffered enough? Has this been ridiculous enough as an energy crisis? Is there a solution that actually meets the time horizon? As you said, things go faster than they have in the past. And then there has to be an analysis of the technical roadmaps, of the milestones that each company is proposing. But definitely we are at a time when we absolutely need to invest in energy.
And is the situation, we see a lot of climate tech companies at growth stage move over to the US. What do you think about that? You're building in Europe, you're building in Munich, you're building in Oxford and London. What is your take on Europe versus US from a climate tech founder perspective?
I think the US has greater access to VC funding, but that said, the bet that we are both taking, I suppose, is that if you have the right technology and you have the right vision of how to fit into the energy system, the funding can be accessed. And Europe has tremendous advantages in some domains. I am not originally from Germany. I moved to Munich because that is the place where you can bring stellarators as a form of fusion device really to the next stage. So for us, Munich is the ideal ecosystem. It's where we can create this public-private partnership with the Max Planck Society. And all our bet is that that aspect of partnership, the conjunction of many conditions, is what will allow us to actually accelerate and we hope surprise people with how fast this is going to happen.
Okay.
How many questions left?
2, 3, 4, 5, X.
Oh, okay, no, it's good. Yeah, look, I have a point that I feel very bitter about this. So I went, at university with some very smart people. We did engineering, and they've all gone into banking or consultancy. And there's just I don't know, an insipid culture of going into these things. And like very talented people could be building amazing things, and in my opinion, they're not. And I think there's like a culture that needs to shift there. Like they need to be building stuff, and I really want that to change. I think that's when you make an ecosystem. When you make an ecosystem that's maybe an energy ecosystem in Europe, right? Like the talent stays. They want to be building these things. I think that's awesome. That's what I have an ulterior motive with THALERON, is that amazing, talented engineers stay as engineers, and they don't become bankers and consultants. If there's any in the room, apologies.
That's a very interesting point on talent, but how about go-to-market? You mentioned California has this problem. Is California then a better place for THALERON to deploy its solution first?
Yeah, there's lots of places that are good. They have a great location, but yeah, I mean, I haven't said what we're doing anyway, so no one knows why that's important.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, let's. We have 3 minutes left. Maybe also to understand this new wave of frontier tech founders of purpose-drivenness. I'd just be interested in this roller coaster journey, obviously, of building these super exciting, ambitious moonshot companies. What is your fuel? Like, what drives you personally to get up every day and go all in, not only for the commercial return, financial return, but also to maximize your impact?
Personally, I started my academic journey in physics. I was looking for a pretty radical way of affecting the world around me, looking for the highest form of impact. Fusion was that, so I've been chasing it for the last 10 years in my research, and getting into creating Proxima Fusion together with my co-founders has been incredibly energizing, and I think it's the one way in which I can actually make a big difference. I find that is how we are attracting talent into Proxima Fusion. It's an extremely effective way of bringing people that really are engineers. They want to not really work for an oil company or a SaaS company, and they really want to contribute to the energy picture. That same motivation is what really makes us push hard.
So that actually helps you to attract talent that your company potentially can create a lot of impact.
Absolutely. I think that having the clear mission is the single best way of finding the right people.
How about you, Jorgen?
Crazy things.
What are your drivers?
I love building shit, so maybe that's why. No, I'm an engineer. I think there's another thing, which is, if you look across every sector, so like progress of humanity is kind of energy in times efficiency of use. And almost everything people are building is on the efficiency of use. You're building a new SaaS product to make something more efficient. You're finding a new way to manufacture shoes, which is, producing shoes at a lower cost. But energy is like a fantastic thing to do because it touches everything. If you can make energy, and solar is now 30% lower than energy has ever been in history, right? So if we actually got that at the meter, what would that mean? That would mean that so many things that can't be done right now are possible. And it would be, humanity would change. That's how I see it. I think energy is this incredible thing. It's changing very quickly right now, and the time horizon is actually right for VC. yeah, I don't know. This is why I think everyone in this room should be investing in it.
Yeah, awesome.
Not just us, like this guy, everyone.
I love the obsession, and it's something, of course, all of us look for in founders, and it's great. And yeah, let's wrap it up here. A huge thank you to our panelists for shedding light on intermittency, fusion, planets, the planet storage, and everything else. And yeah, thank also you for caring about this topic, right? And for your attention. And have a great evening.
Thanks.